we're coming in hot.
Or you're going to take the shoes off?
No, I'm just going to hold my leg like that. You know, every conversation is an opportunity. Every person that you bring in.
I love that.
Because Matt Campoli brands himself as the awkward realtor.
I see how you... I love his awkwardness, though.
It's happening more and more and more and more and more.
Not only are you growing your brand, but you're also facilitating education.
Even for us, just having the sign and our names attached to something.
It's stressful.
No update is an update. No.
If this is what you can afford and you want to spend, this is what you're looking at.
People can smell that.
I hope they can.
Wait a minute, you guys can watch my house? From wine country to cottage country, real estate is all about lifestyle. I'm Andrew Perry, and welcome to That Fine Life. All right, welcome back. Season 3, we're coming in hot. We've got Kate Broddick. We've got new swag. We've got a huge collaboration with our boys at Rich and Ripped. You know, he's hooked us up with these sweaters. I got these nice hats. And then, oh, God.
Or you're going to take the shoes off?
No, I'm just going to hold my leg like that. That is That Fine Life podcast sneaker. It's the Vans edition, and my team actually bought that for me.
I love that.
So, Kate, you're here for the season 3 premiere.
Oh wow.
It's
episode
the premiere.
1?
Yeah, episode 1 of season 3.
When was I here with you the last time? 2 years.
Have you ever actually been on the Fine Life podcast?
No, that was the REVELutionary podcast.
Yes.
I don't know. And then
Didn't we do that one twice?
Maybe.
Because I think when you first joined Revel, we did it. And
yes,
then,
that's right.
And then like a year or so later.
That's right. That's right in your Niagara on the Lake office.
Yeah.
And we've had other chats.
That's right. I was in the vault.
Yes, you were.
I was
You were my first guest.
Yes, I was your first guest.
Yes, you were the premiere as well. So I feel privileged.
Good. How's that going?
You know what? I love it. I when I first started it, I did it for more collaborative purposes, right. And I'll be completely honest, a little bit worried about the time constraints that it would have. Yeah. And I really did. And it wasn't because I didn't want to give time to it, but you're running around, running teams, running offices, kids, maybe you want to sleep, facilitate clients, but it actually ended up being the biggest joy I had in 2023. I loved talking to other agents.
Yes.
And I got great tips.
Well, yes. The best thing about it is that I was going to say that because Chris Keller came on, and honestly, he gave me the best tips, and it literally changed my business. And this was 2 seasons in. Yeah. So you're, I don't know, are you doing seasons? Have you thought about it or?
We're just kind of like going with episodes. Yeah, we're not like, we're back in season 2, but I love the season 2.
Yeah. So when you get into it is what I'm saying is that, every conversation is an opportunity. Every person that you bring in, and there was a couple there where I did back-to-backs, and they were kind of both team leaders, and I was just a little worried if the information was going to be repetitive or be stale, for the audience and for me.
Yep.
But you'd be surprised just how different people run each and every business. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's also the energy that people bring. And it was one of those things when we did like our year end, like kind of thank you to everybody. We took what we felt was the best advice, like in that 3-second clip that fit the person that sat in the chair or their energy. And it's so interesting because when you have all of these wonderful top agents who've created such success within their business, they have a very similar attribute in their mindset, in their hustle, in their energy, but their delivery is very different.
That's true.
And I love that.
Because Matt Campoli brands himself as the awkward realtor.
I see how I love his awkwardness though. But I mean, even the things that you said, take yourself and then take like James in the City and then take like Matt Leonetti and then take like Shay McLeod.
Yep.
It's like amazing agents, but like so different.
Right.
But I loved it.
And speaking of Shay, she's a friend of mine too. I love her kind of business strategy.
Yes.
Is very similar to mine.
Yeah. And actually we were talking about that because I think we connected, the two of you connected over something. I can't remember what it was. It was back around the time when she came on my podcast. And she has such a dynamic system where different agents in different cities, and now you're doing different agents or want to do different agents in different cities, implementing it now. And it's just unlike most business models that we see with teams, Golfy would be another one, obviously, because he's got different agents in different cities and he's everywhere. But it's not traditional.
No.
But works.
Right. And the way it started was that majority of our clients are 55 plus. So they're either coming from the GTA and buying in Niagara, or they might be buying in Niagara, but also getting a cottage in Muskoka. So that's why, so we have team members in Muskoka. We have a Burlington expansion. We just had a meeting with somebody for a Toronto expansion, Florida. And so it all is to service our clients under one umbrella. And because we were noticing patterns, and we're like, well, what's the point of just passing them off when, you could have a really amazing referral partner, and thank you to all of ours, of course. And sometimes you're not in control, right? Yeah. So if you're that personality worked for your first 5 referrals, great. Most likely it's going to work for your 6th. But what if it doesn't, and you potentially lost an amazing client because of that?
Absolutely. And even just your service, like I'm sure like how you run your team would be similar to mine, where you have each agent should be an extension of your brand. Even though their personalities may be different in delivery, the end goal is still the same. You still have those steps that you want to take to ensure excellent service to your clients. So if they're on your team, maybe someone comes from Toronto and wants to retire in Niagara-on-the-Lake, but they want to keep a condo in Toronto, and hey, I also want to buy a cottage in Muskoka. How amazing would the Fine Estates team be able to service with their agents?
That's right.
It's kind of like a brokerage within a brand.
Of course.
Or a brand within a brokerage, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's where, I just see the future of real estate going as a whole is those types of inner networks, because it first started a couple of years ago. People would reach out from other cities asking like, hey, how can I be a part of the Fine Estates team? And it's happening more and more and more and more and more. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't even know how I could offer you value when you're in, Ottawa or Pembroke or Newfoundland. Yeah. Right? So we had to come up with systems in order to help service all of our agents. And it's been working, but we're learning something new every other day.
Yeah, but I think that's an amazing expansion, to be honest. Just because if you can take something, within a small niche market and expand it, not only are you growing your brand, but you're also facilitating education, training, and systems to agents outside of your local market.
That's right.
And networking is everything, and you're the king of networking. So.
Well, thank you. But you also have 2 offices too.
Yes.
Brantford and Norfolk. So how does that kind of work? I mean, is it set up the same? Maybe you share time and.
Well, the way I envisioned that was, and it was pretty new to conception when I did it. It wasn't necessarily already in place, and I just needed a team office to facilitate it. It was more of I'm going to do this now, understanding that it's not fully developed.
Yes.
But in the next 5 to 7 years, that's where my vision goes. Yeah. And so because of where we're located in Brantford, 35 minutes down, basically across town is Norfolk County, and then 35 minutes across Norfolk County is Haldimand County. So it's like a straight shoot right to Lake Erie. Yep. And even though the proximity isn't terrible, I mean, when you're in larger places like Toronto, it could take you an hour just to get across like 10 kilometers. Oh, yeah. But it is very different properties. Like you're looking at more waterfront properties, more agricultural rural properties. Yeah. Exactly. And so I saw the need that if we had agents that were out towards those areas that could service those clients, because they basically live in those communities, our team could extend, even though we have separate offices, but it's more so for agent, like facilitating the agents, but the team is still the same. Right. So a little bit of a different business model. I also we have a big team in comparison to a lot, but I like the intimacy. I don't know how much bigger I would want to go. Yes. Yeah, but I admire what you're doing.
Right. And so that's why it's important for me that, we keep it as, brick and mortar as possible. And that it's super important. And it just with my previous experience with LA Fitness and how, our senior vice presidents would work, they'd spend a day or two in Newmarket. They'd spend a day or two in Kitchener, spend a day or two in New York. And it was, to me, it was just a level of accountability that the general manager just couldn't hold over his salespeople. He's like, oh, the VP's coming. Let's clean up, let's shave. And it just promoted that professionalism within the workplace that I genuinely feel like a lot of, the real estate industry is kind of lost.
I actually could not agree with you more. And that's why I took a big stance on making an office, because when COVID happened and we were forced to work from home, I think you lose something in your culture when you're not breathing the same air, sharing the ideas face to face, and you can feel that energy in a room. I do think that is a really big element for empowerment, for creativity, and for continuing on as like a team that's together. Right? When you lose the brick and mortar or the coming into the office, getting up every day and getting ready, because real estate could technically be run from a home office because you can do all of your administrative work there. But I feel like the excitement and the positivity and the empowerment comes from a collaborative approach, which means being together in a brick and mortar space.
Right.
Right.
And so how does that work for, I know because we've talked about this before, but just for our audience, what does that, type of empowerment look like? So for a team leader, let's just say they're struggling. Yep. You've got maybe one or two good salespeople on the team. The others are just, maybe they're not bought in, or maybe they love the culture, but for some reason their sales are slipping. Because you've been number one every year of your life, I think, right?
No, it was 9 years this year in transactions for myself. Yeah.
See, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, how do you kind of keep up that level of intensity, buy-in, and empowerment?
Well, first of all, it does have to come from within.
Right.
It starts there.
Yep.
You have to be self-motivated. You have to be disciplined. You have to have a vision, and you have to have goals that are trackable. So all of your progress has to be tracked. To pass that on to your team means that you have to give each individual like a system that they can follow, but also they need to be able to understand that they can rely, bounce ideas off of, brainstorm, strategize. And I feel like when you're together in an office, you don't feel so isolated. So just a perfect example of this is I've had team meetings where all of a sudden, everyone's staying around and they're eating and they're talking. And, one of the agents will say, I had this client and this is the situation. And then one of my other agents jumped in and said, oh my God, I just had that happen to me.
Yes.
Now you can work together and you're like, you don't feel so alone in things, because real estate can be very emotional. It can be very emotionally taxing. It can be a lot of late nights in the market we just came out of. It can be very stressful. Yep. Financially, it can be rewarding, but if you're not selling, it can also be very devastating.
That's right.
And last year was one of those years for a lot of people. And I feel that when you're amongst people who share in the same vision, the same goals, and the same discipline, when you're having those moments that are in the valley where you're like, man, I can't pull myself out of this. The market's crazy. I've never seen anything like this. I have clients doing this. I have listings that aren't selling. I have listings that are canceling and expiring. What's happening when you get people together who are positive, you can pick each other up. And that's the culture, the bricks and mortar, the collaboration that we always speak of. And I live for that, because you don't have to be in this business alone. Even if you're an independent contractor or a team member, you can still pull from the strength of others, but it has to come from within.
Right.
It has to start there.
Right. And I'm happy you said that. And there's something else I want to talk to you about: tracking. What gets measured gets improved. I think I've said that on every single podcast I've ever been on, but that's why it's so important. Because people will, it's a very small percentage, but it's mainly my friends. They're like, why do you post what time you wake up? Why do you post with your shirt off in a parking lot? Why do you post like every time you're get off the hockey rink, and you're all sweaty? And I said, look, number one, it started to hold myself accountable, because I realized that if I told people about it, I'd be a little bit more embarrassed if I didn't continue or keep it up. So that's number one. And then number two, what I realized is that my team was getting empowered by it. And then what I realized is that my followers were getting empowered by it. So, over the last 6 months, I've really, controlled, drinking and all that other unhealthy eating and all that other stuff. But I remember specifically one time it was like, maybe in the summer, I was hungover, so I didn't post. There's no timestamp. There was no motivational, nothing. And I had texts, maybe 1 or 2 phone calls and a lot of DMs. Where's my email? Where's my motivational post? Right. And I think of, in a business where real estate is a lonely business, you'd be surprised by just how, leading forward, being that person, taking ownership for yourself, that it spreads out quite significantly to people around you.
It builds community.
Yeah.
And, the 5 a.m. club posts, I actually stopped doing them for a while because I was getting blown up on Instagram, and I was like, okay, no, this is actually like time that I work from 5 to 7 before I work out.
Right.
But it did build that community. I would have moms say like, oh my God, you have 3 boys. Like, how are you getting up in the morning? And it's like, it's discipline. Mm-hmm. Once again, anyone can do anything if they want it bad enough.
That's
if you're passionate enough about it. And I think sharing your strengths shouldn't be seen as bragging or like, oh, look at me. It's not. It's, I'm a regular person. I get up and I can do this, and you can do it too. And sometimes it may come across that way at the beginning, but as they get to know you and they follow you, it's almost like a lifestyle journey on social media platforms. They realize that, hey, you know what? You're just a good person who's working really hard. And now I can relate to you on, your boys playing hockey.
Yeah.
Or the fact that you love going to the gym and you're really putting an effort into your health. Those are relatable things that I think everybody wants, but sometimes doesn't know how to start. Yeah. Right?
I agree. And there's been a lot of people, and maybe it's just I'm noticing it more, but there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of struggles lately.
A lot.
There's financial struggles. There's relationship struggles.
Yep.
And there's health struggles. December 20th, I was diagnosed with blood cancer, JAK2. And when I was waiting, not just the diagnosis, but also the bone marrow biopsy, which was so fun. Yeah, you should get one day.
Yeah.
Drill into your back with a syringe and suck out. Anyways, so between where, we were worried what was going on to the diagnosis, I really took that time. I'm not going to lie to you, it was hard. I was, sometimes on my knees after a set, like crying or thinking about my entire life. And then, just one day I woke up with this kind of epiphany where I need to take this more serious. And I did, and I doubled down on it. And I worked out 2 times a day. Sometimes I played hockey. Sometimes, I was maintaining 7 days a week. And I was just thinking to myself is that, you could have kids, you could be a single parent, you could be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. But if you're not right personally, in your mind, in your body, you're not going to be any good to your business or your employees or your team members.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think that, when one of the biggest qualities I see about people who have that drive and that vision is that they have the mental clarity, they have the health benefits because they're taking care of themselves, because they understand the importance that if I'm going to go all in, so to speak, on my business and my family, I have to be at the top of my game.
That's right.
If you are not at the top of your game, then you are not going to be at the top. Right. And that does, and once again, everyone's goals are a little bit different. I mean, not everyone has to, set a goal to transact 150 to 200 deals. Maybe their goal is to transact 30 and that's success to them, which is fine. But then you get healthy, seemingly people like yourself, right? Who, I mean, if anyone was just watching on Instagram, like you'd think you have a camera following you around and you're going with your kids. I love the posts of your boys, especially when they're like just in their like diapers or underwear, just walking around, and they're so cute. But like a very involved father, obviously a very active realtor, running podcasts, collaborating with others, and then all of a sudden you get hit with that news, right? I think it's sharing in your story though, but I also think it's a testament to like, if we all don't smarten up and be healthy and avoid the things that don't keep us healthy.
That's right.
So I think doing the gym stuff and the 5 a.m., I mean, I think it's a testament to who you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So tracking. Yeah. See, I remembered, right, to come back. So we are using a program right now. Actually, our main team is out learning more about it. It's called CTE. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So it is a dashboard of sorts. We also have Follow-Up Boss that has like rankings and things like that. But it shows where were you at 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year, where are you at now, graphs of total sales volume, total units, how many buyers, how many sellers, how many listings sold, how many listings canceled, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a great way to consistently be able to, measure your results, have, attainable goals, and be able to see them in real time. Is that kind of something that you guys are working with in terms of tracking, or is this more of, inspecting what you expect, or both?
It's a little bit of both. So I'll be the first one to say that the technology portion of any of this, I really struggle with.
We had an Excel sheet up until like 2 weeks ago. Okay?
That's my jam.
Yeah,
so
that's all we had.
That is my jam. But I track everything that I do from 7 o'clock in the morning until about 7 o'clock at night.
Yep.
I know people who do it in 15-minute increments. I do it in half an hour increments. I track everything from the number of calls that I make, the number of follow-ups I do, the number of updated CMAs that I do, the number of touch points I do on social media, the number of touch points I do with past clients, current clients. I track literally everything that I do. So I have some kind of metric on what I need to do to convert one person. How many listing appointments do I need to book and execute? How many buyer meetings do I have to go on? How many showings do I have to do for someone to purchase? So when I say tracking, it's like on a whole other level of like from the moment that I wake up. It's not just about tracking and comparing what I did, even expenses, which actually I'll have to say my bookkeeper does for me. But so I have a graph of like, okay, in 2013, I did this. In 2023, that 10-year gap, but like a very different year in real estate. What did I do? And if I were to maintain my 2022 income, what would I have to do to make that in a year that's like 2023? Right. I need to triple up on listing meetings. I need to triple up on buyer meetings. I need to triple up on phone calls. I need to triple up on touch points, like, because you had to work harder.
Yeah.
Because nothing was coming to fruition, right?
Of course. Right. And even if you did manage to get a whole ton of listings and spend, thousands of dollars on
staging, marketing, everything.
It takes longer to sell, and some of them didn't sell.
Or some of them canceled because they were frustrated.
Right. Yeah. We got a lot of that. I can't handle it. I'm like, we haven't got any showings. I'm not sure what there wasn't to handle, but I'm just joking. I know It's super stressful. I mean, even for us, just having the sign and our names attached to something
is stressful.
It's very stressful. And knowing that, no update is an update. So we always do connect with our clients, but it does get, oh man, I'm sorry, I got nothing for you this week,
Well, and that's the thing. And it's foundational systems that have worked because you've tracked them. You've seen the success, but there was one very, especially last year, one very key component, which was our economic factors that we haven't seen change so quickly, which was the state of the economy and interest rates.
Yep.
And then there was one thing that you can't really measure, but you knew it was there, was buyer hesitation and fear. Yep. So people just weren't moving, right? So it's tracking to me is you can't track you can't be successful without tracking your progress because you have to hold yourself accountable, right? Every day it's easy for realtors to say, and I have lots of conversations where it's, well, God, I worked 12 hours today. I'm like, well, what did you do in 12 hours? Well, I followed up with my one client. I'm like thinking, if you didn't make like 10, 15, 20 calls before a lunch hour and you didn't follow up with all the people who didn't list in the last 5 years, or you didn't come up with some kind of value proposition for your buyers, meaning like have you ever reverse engineered a CMA for a buyer?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yes, and 100%. That's one of my favorite things to do, but nobody does. Most people I talk to don't do it. It's like, if you aren't providing that work for your clients and you can't come up with like tangible items that were done, outside of maybe posting on social media and sharing your stories, then you haven't tracked your progress.
I agree. And that reverse CMA. So how do you package that? I'll tell you what we do after.
Yeah, for reverse engineering the CMA for a seller. So obviously the objective of giving some kind of an analysis or an evaluation
for a buyer.
For a seller though, is to provide them with a list price.
Right.
Right. This is a range in, depending on the economic factors, the inventory, what's happening in your neighborhood. This is the range to which I'd list your home.
Right.
For a buyer, you're reverse engineering that because they're not looking to list a property, they're looking to purchase a property. So you're looking at their budget and what they can afford. So based on variable or fixed interest rate, which obviously hopefully they would have been pre-approved. So you kind of have the breakdown, what their down payment is, what their neighborhood is, and reasonably where they want to live versus what they can afford. And you reverse engineer that to show them, listen, this is your affordability. These are the neighborhoods that you can reasonably purchase in. These are the homes from the solds that you could have reasonably got into. Let's start looking at these kinds of properties in these neighborhoods that support this budget based on your affordability.
Right.
And it's almost like it's a reverse CMA.
I really love the fact that you showed them the solds.
Yes.
This is what you could have purchased.
Yep.
With your budget. Wow. Okay. Because what we do is, and shout out to Claudia who just has been working on her own design and everything, is that, showing the actual value of a buyer agent, and what really triggered us to double down on it is with this whole Tressa thing.
Yes.
I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And we've probably had at least a handful of calls lately where it's like, I'm a self-representative party.
Really?
I'm like, what? What is that? Yeah, the new rules. I'm like, oh yeah, right, that. So we've actually been getting them, and we're like, okay, so why is it that you want to represent yourself? And you're digging deep, and majority of it is because their past experiences with buyer agents. My buyer agent didn't do anything. I found all my own homes. I suggested the offer price. I told them the conditions I wanted to put in, and then they wrote it up. So why don't I just have my lawyer do that?
Yep.
Which lawyers are starting to just ask for the buyer's commission now is what we're hearing anyways. But anyways, and I said, well, okay, so how did your buyer consult go? Well, because, people would lose, our team was losing buyers. How did your buyer consult go? Well, I met them at the property. I was like, wait, but what about the buyer consult? Well, it's like they just asked to see this property, and, I didn't want to like hold them up. I just said, okay, yeah, I said, no. We have a process. It's the buyer consult.
Yeah.
It's the 5 W's. Who, what, where, when, why, how. And finding out their criteria. And once you've found out their criteria, you hand them what you call a reverse CMA, and I call it like a buyer's package. And so we do the same thing. We look for the homes that match your criteria. Yep. We take the list price and we do our own CMA on each of those homes to come up with a suggestive offer price.
Yes.
And then from there, we say, okay, based on historical factors, based on economical factors, here's what we can project your mortgage to look like.
Yes.
Again, talk to your own mortgage broker and your accountant, et cetera. But here's what we can say based on historical rates and appreciation is in 12 months, you can expect this in this neighborhood. Blah, 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 blah. So we do up to a 5-year projection. And of course, inside that buyer's package, we'll have the schools, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's a wealth of knowledge because I think with the buyers in particular, which I wish they weren't as hesitant as they were in 2023 because I think it actually was a great time to purchase, is if you're actually breaking down their affordability for them and then you're actually showing them, listen, if this is what you can afford and you want to spend, this is what you're looking at.
Right.
You need to show them the product. You don't go into a store and say, okay, like I just want that shirt. Well, that shirt's $150. Well, my budget's $50. Well, then you're going over to this section.
Right.
Right. So show it to them off the bat. The buyer consult is a must.
And it's a visualization.
It is
too,
a visualization.
Right? So in every industry, they say, this is what you want. Here are your options.
Yeah.
And what I find with realtors, and we try not to do it, I know some of my team does this, but I say don't use auto emails. Say, Hey, John, I found this home based on your criteria. I don't know if it's for you, but I'd like to review it with you. You said you wanted a bungalow. You said you wanted 3 bedrooms. You're in the 700 range. This one's listed at 725, but I think based on the comps, we could probably get this around 680. What do you think? Would you like to go see it? So you're presenting them. Each client is a file. It's a relationship with the file, whereas when you visualize it like this has helped me so much, is that it's not open-ended. It's not like, okay, you reach back out to me whenever you find something you like. It's, no, I've got to complete this file, and I've got to enter things into this file that my buyer appreciates and feels like they're getting the advisory aspect. You've got a lawyer who advises you legally. You got a doctor who advises you on your health. You got a personal trainer who advises you on your fitness. And now you got a realtor that is just sending you things on an auto email waiting for you to tell them what to do.
There's no advising.
Exactly.
I agree with you. And I think that we lost that somewhere down the line in terms of our industry as a whole, because we have these lazy tools, which we've always preached that auto email should not be what you rely on. It should be what helps you. If, say, you're in a meeting and this hot property comes up, like in 2022, when if a property came up, it was like, oh my God. But every single day, so I have, I am not the most techie realtor in the business, and I don't claim to be, nor do I want to be, but I base off of calendars and appointment scheduling and my CRM. Like, those are the 2 tools, or like my 2 Bibles. Every single day I have a recurring appointment across the top of my calendar that says active buyers and active sellers, or active potential sellers. Yep. I have their information in it. Every day I click open that tag. Every day I'm looking at the properties. I don't want to ever be categorized as the agent who just opened doors. I want to advise them.
Right.
I want to let them know, you know what, before we even see a property, we need to make sure that, 1, you want to live in that neighborhood. 2, it's within your budget. Are there any realtor remarks about holding offers? What are the comparable sales? And of course, is this going to fit your financial portfolio? Like, are you going to be able to afford this property? And so it's not just oh, hey, I want to go see this property. Oh, okay, what time do you want to go at 3:00? Like, no, it's like, let's qualify the home, because sometimes buyers get frustrated in markets that we're currently in, where they start to lose track of their own wants, and wants, right?
Yep.
And I'll never forget, I had one of my greatest clients, DJ, we actually just bought her a property in 2023, and she would message me and she'd say, oh, but what about this one, Kate? And I'm like, you know what, DJ, you told me exactly what you wanted. Mm-hmm. This couldn't be further from it. She's like, you know what? I appreciate that. You're right. I don't want to see it.
That's right.
It's not about wasting my time. It's actually about wasting theirs.
And even, I bet you, if you did this exercise, even though you're, proactive, I guarantee you, if you called all of your clients who bought a house in the past 5 years and you asked them directly, was this your dream house or the perfect house? A lot of them would say no.
Yeah.
And you say, I know, because you told me you wanted a pool. We ended up not getting something with the pool. And now I see this property that matches everything you've wanted plus a pool. Are you interested? I know you love your house, but are you interested to go check it out? No, I love my area and we're not moving. You're right. We shouldn't have even got a pool. Or why not? Let's go check it out.
But you asked the question.
Of course. You asked.
Yeah.
And how would you feel this? Yeah, do you have a financial advisor, like a whole life for stocks or anything? So imagine if, I'm not into stocks, by the way. I'm in whole life and do those things, and I have somebody run it for me. But imagine if you're super into stocks and you're like, wow, this Tesla just rose up like crazy. And you call your financial advisor and you're like, why don't we have any Tesla stock? And he's like, well, man, you should have bought that like 2 weeks ago. That was a really good time to buy. Well,
why didn't you call me?
Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
You're the one with your finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
So why do we expect our clients to have the same views of real estate just because they're sending you properties?
Exactly.
So just because they're inquiring doesn't make them, and again, I mean this with all due respect, just because they're inquiring doesn't make them the decision makers about the process.
No, and it's our obligation as professionals to help lead them in the direction that they truly want to be in, because it's overwhelming sometimes, the real estate process, right? So asking the questions is incredibly important, but it also, I think, justifies and validates the professionals. Because if you have a client on auto email and they come across my table, I will be stealing your client, because I can tell you right now, they will not just be receiving passive emails from me. I will be on the phone with them every time that property comes up, and even when it doesn't, because I still want to make sure that we're on the same page. Has your why changed? Has your goal changed? Has your financial situation changed? Has your wants changed? I had a client who called me up. We had canceled their listing it was a property in Paris. They had their house listed in August. The market was flatlining in September and October. I called them up. I said, guys, let's take it off the market. Let's see what happens after Christmas. Like, I don't want you to be frustrated. I promise you we will sell this, but we're also seeing nothing coming up that you want to buy in Guelph. Perfect. They called me up and they said, our life plans have changed. I said, okay, well, what's going on? We're now pregnant. So now we need to sell because we want to get to where we're going a little bit faster. So I said, okay, that's great. What are your timelines? What do you do? Obviously that information was given to me. And then I said, at the end of the day, we could list your house right now, December, quite possibly the worst month ever to list your property. Or you can trust me and we're going to execute this properly, but we're going to do it the first week back. The house was on the market for almost 90 days in the summer and fall. We had it sold the first week back in January. But that's because they listened, even though they were nervous, because they're like, oh, now our life is changing and we want to move and we want to make sure we get in the house before we have another baby. And they had a under 2-year-old. I said, perfect. And we will do that. But now is not the time. You're advising. Right. And and I think when you are as confident in you and what you bring to the table and knowing the market and knowing the market trends and paying attention to the market trends, tracking, your clients will listen because they've hired you to be that advisor.
That's right. Call me crazy. You just might. Yeah. I canceled about 8 of our listings because for one, it wasn't a strong need. Yeah. And number 2, the list price was a little bit off from where market value was. Not crazy, but in this market, the only buyers who are out, in my market anyways, are people who are looking for a really, really good deal. They're going to lock in at a higher rate, refi in a year, or even go on a variable, and then take advantage of the equity. So it is a great time for buyers. But for our sellers, we said, look, this is just going to hurt your days on market. Let's pull you off. Let's regroup, even if we need to do a little bit of a fresh marketing approach, and we'll get you back up as soon as those rates start going down.
But that to me is advising. Right. And I think that that's what a great agent does is I don't want to just keep you on the market in the slim hope that this is going to sell. It's frustrating you. You feel like I'm not doing my job because ultimately that can be the perception. It's looking bad to the public. So why would you keep that up? I canceled 4 listings this fall. Put them all back up at the first week. Every single one of them are gone. Yeah. And every single one of them are happy. Yeah. Right? At the end of the day, you have to advise on the best needs of the seller and their property being sold or purchased. And it has to be selfless.
That's right. Well, and I think people can smell that.
I hope they can.
And I hope so too. And
I hope they can. And I think it's when you go those like weeks and weeks and weeks without hearing from your realtor, it's like, well, like where have you been?
That's right. Well, because I have that, in the back of my mind with certain services, and as we work with so many different marketing companies and all this, and you're like, I haven't heard from you and I haven't got any leads, so I don't know what the hell you're doing. Yeah. I do it with some of my staff. I'm like, I actually haven't talked to you all day. What have you done? Yeah. What do you mean, what have I done? I'm just joking. But it's the same with the realtor. It's the sellers want to feel like, and it is a little difficult, and I really want to work, we're elevating our services this year in a big, big, big way, but I really want to work on something that is easy enough for the sellers to understand and the agent to send out, where it's a weekly tracker of where their property's been seen.
You need to talk to me about this.
Yeah. Because we were doing it all of ourselves manually on Canva. No. And I'm like, this is so
No. You need to sit down and we need to talk about my inside sales agent and the analytics that we send out on a weekly basis to all of our clients. Great. And it is a wonderful service that we provide to all of our sellers. It comes without notion. It gets without request. It goes instantly to the sellers, and it also goes instantly to the agent who has the the listing. So then we can spark conversations on engagement, on where we're marketing your property. Absolutely. So why is it that we have 30,000 views between social platforms and YouTube? We have a ton of engagement. We're not talking about from our team, but from the outside public, but we have no showings. So it stimulates conversation on, it's not that your property is not getting out there. We have it.
That's right.
We see it. We're boosting it. We're doing the ads manager campaigns across all platforms. We're running like reels, full length videos. We're running static photos. We're basically doing everything. It's on 22 boards through Matrix. It's on Treb.
Yep.
It's there. We're seeing how many, we just call them PCS, the preferred client services, the auto email. We're seeing how many that's going out to. We're even going in the back end and contacting all the agents, all the people who favored it.
That's what I was doing too, and then I was getting tired of physically counting the buyer agents.
Inside sales agent was a game changer for us.
Okay,
but
interesting.
we can definitely chat about that, because that is a wonderful service to provide to your sellers on a weekly basis, where they now anticipate, I'm going to get this, and I can tangibly see what you're doing.
That's right.
And if it's a luxury property and you do it in magazines or, online magazines or whatever it is, because I know you do quite a bit of that in Niagara-on-the-Lake, it's that wow factor, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a level of service that, the average buyer or seller doesn't expect. And that's how I tell, that's why Gracie and Andrea are out right now doing all of this. And, we're elevating Gracie's role, and not to an inside sales, but we could talk about that later, but more of a just client facing. And that's kind of it. And, this is how we see it anyways. I know you're a little bit more involved with your clients, but I like to meet the client first. And if it's a seller, I'm usually with Crystal. And then I immediately introduce her to Gracie, like immediately. And then we start a group chat with the clients and Gracie.
I love that.
And then Gracie does showing request, feedback. And then this is like the general feedback that people send in. Yeah. And then I always reach out to the agent as well and just kind of go into a little more detail. And it's been working great. And, half the time, with these little problems, I love to hear from my clients, by the way, don't get me wrong, but these little problems, they just call her.
Well, yeah, because she's like a concierge service.
Exactly.
She is that white glove service that you need something. It's not that we're not here, but we may be an appointment. So it might be 3-4 hours before we get back to them. Whereas if you have customer care and concierge, it's like, yep, absolutely. I'm right on this.
And the client comes home and their driveway's plowed.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Great. Those are the things that Gracie has been focusing on is, okay, we drove by, we noticed the grass got a little longer. Let's send out our guy.
Yeah.
It's those little things, especially, and the clients love it when they go away because they're like, wait a minute, you guys can watch my house? We had Paige, we there's liabilities and stuff, so you got to be careful. But yeah, absolutely, like Paige even had to watch, our client was gone for like 5 weeks and left the cat there. So Paige went 2 times a day to fed the cat, to cut the cat.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's just because a lot of our clients, like I said, are 55 plus and they go to Florida or they go to Colombia for, 4 or 5 months even sometimes.
Yeah. And that's okay though, because then they're hiring a team that is going to give them full service. Of
course. And if you don't have the, systems to, approach it effectively, it can kind of blow up in your face. It's done it to me, but you kind of go through that just by going through the experience. Right?
Yeah. I love that.
So 2024, why is it going to be different than last year in your, theory?
I think that if there's a little bit of pent up buyer demand right now because we still have low inventory. I think that once the interest rates come down, and they have, because you can now get a 5-year fixed mortgage for under 5%. So in some cases, 4.79, 4.89.
I've seen it. Yeah.
That is going to alleviate some of that pressure that people were being squeezed with last year. But it's not going to be a great year for everybody. It's going to be a great year for those people who pounded the pavement last year, connected with their clients, made selfless decisions, told them it was not a good time to buy, that they had to wait, and that they would inform them when it was a good time to buy or sell, who made those relationships stronger by connecting with their clients on a more personal level. How are you? How are you doing? You know, is everything okay at home? Like, I know you want to sell, but financially it's not the right time. Making sure that they know that you care, throwing your community events.
Yes.
Huge. Making sure that your clients know that you were at top of mind, or they were at top of mind in a market that was devastating to most financially. Those agents will be the ones who have a phenomenal year this year because their clients have built an obscene amount of trust in them.
But doesn't a busy market mean that the agent's going to be busy?
It does not mean that. And it's funny because in 2022, portions of it at the beginning of the year, when the market went bananas and everyone left, right, and center was selling, that was an anomaly. But anyone who didn't have a business plan came out of that first 4 months and did nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's only one house for what? Well, one buyer for every house.
That's right.
So if there's 100 buyers competing, there's 99 agents that aren't getting paid.
Oh, that's exactly right. So I think this year we're going to see a phenomenal year. I think we're going to see people fall back in love with real estate. I think we're going to see more confidence because it's going to be more stable. I don't think we're going to see some large, I've seen on social media, the multiple offers are cut, which stop saying that. Yes, they're happening on lower priced homes that are severely, I just had one go 150,000 over asking, but it was really only about 25,000 over what it was actually evaluated at.
Yeah.
So let's stop creating the illusions. Let's say that there's more activity. Things are moving. People are more confident. And I think that that's what 2024 is going to be.
That's right. And people forget, like at least in Niagara, when I first started, like 6 months was your average day on market, really.
Well, yeah. You have a lot of luxury, expensive properties. You have a very niche buyer.
Well, yeah, that's right. And, at one point, we were only signing 12-month contracts.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, even when I first started, even your $300,000 house, like it was 60 days, 70 days, 90 days.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a very, and then people are like, oh my God, this place is the slowest market ever. $3 million home. Buyers are like, why is it still on the market? I'm like, it's been 42 days.
And this is a $3 million home.
Yeah.
The buyer pool is very small.
That's right. So one more thing, the community events.
Yes.
Because, I did hear you talk about it, I think on Simeon's podcast,
Yes.
Because we do it too. We love it. And we try to involve the youth. That's our big thing. We love it.
That.
So February 19th, we're hosting we're sponsoring the public free skate.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, 2 hours, hot dogs, games, draws, gifts, prizes, popcorn. I think I said popcorn, hot dog, like everything.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. And, and that's fun. You get to see people that you're not even connected with because you're collaborating with the town.
Yeah,
right?
that's
So you have your own clients enjoying it, and you get to meet new people. But one thing that just happened, and it meant the most to me out of about everything we've done, is we sponsored the Easter egg hunt last year for the nursery in Niagara-on-Lake, and they came up to me 2 weeks ago and asked me for a quote about why it's important to, invest back into the community. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And so I got to reflect on the experience, and I wrote something nice. And they said, yeah, because February 4th, and I can't be there. I'm so sorry. I'm speaking in Arlington. But February 4th, they're honoring the donors.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and they, doing a plaque and everything. And
I love that.
And I'm like, holy smokes, that is so cool. And, because it's a nursery, you're investing in seeding the future.
Yeah.
And we really love involving the youth and, sponsoring hockey players that can't afford it. I sponsor a Canadian boxer. Like I love sports and kids, and this guy needs a little extra help to get to the tournaments in Newfoundland and here, and just being able to help children live that type of a lifestyle that I had when I was a kid, and it was less expensive back then,
Yeah,
So.
I love that, and I think it's huge. I mean, there's so many ways to get involved in your community. One of the things that we really stepped up with in the fall and in the winter of 2023 was it wasn't. Like we do a lot of the sponsorships. Like we get always the calls from our local moms. Like, will you sponsor my kids' hockey team, or will you sponsor, or even on our own team, we have hockey moms.
Yeah, I sponsor
and we
my
love
kids'
doing
hockey
that
too.
stuff. Yeah, we love doing that stuff too. But was actually being in the community. We did a Out of the Cold outerwear drive, and the purpose of it was to be out in the cold and it was freezing, and to have people drop off their donations at Mohawk Park. And then we would take those donations and we would give them to the shelters. And those kinds of events to me were so, they were like passion projects, because you've got little kids who don't have outerwear jackets and it's freezing cold. It's Canada.
And that's a tragedy.
It is. And, or, you know, food bank donations, or we have the shoebox project where women coming from abusive relationships, we make shoe boxes full of like hygiene products. And then the shoebox project gives it to those who need it. And that can happen to many different organizations within our communities. And I think that those kinds of community events or donations or involvement or a combination of everything, they make you feel good.
Yes.
Right? That's what it's about. It's about making you feel good and helping your community, because as realtors, if you really do the work, the community really does help you. Like, they help build your business. They're hiring you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
and here's a little tip too. And because you said something, you know, you're more involved, in which I love. So if you're sponsoring something, we really push to help and volunteer.
I love that.
Yeah. So they're like, wait, what? You want to help run the event too? We're like, yes, 100%.
Yeah, be there.
I have brand new white Nikes, and I don't like, I'm not a shoe guy. I don't like, it's whatever. I just so happened to buy them. And we were doing the Easter egg hunt, and I wasn't watching where I was going. And I just went into the biggest mud pile. And usually those things, like, oh, darn it. But I was like, I was happy.
Yeah.
You know, because you were there supporting, and all the kids are laughing at you, and then you're like just jumping in, and you know, it's just to be able to be a part of it and offer your help from a volunteer standpoint to make you know, the event even more special.
That's where the good stuff is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kate, that's it. So you're kind of everywhere. People know how to find you, but if they don't, where's the best?
I would say Instagram. Agent.Kate is the tag. Is that what's called? Handle?
Yep.
Agent.Kate on Instagram, or Agent Kate on Facebook. And I mean, those two are probably the best avenues.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so thank you. That is episode 1 of season 3 all wrapped up. You know the usuals. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, comment. If you're on Spotify, leave us a 5-star review so that other people, other salespeople, other business people can find this podcast and find value from it as well. So thank you, and good night.